Yeah. All right. Welcome to the Reconnect to Your Inner Wisdom workshop series. Today is session 5. There's one more to go next week, and that's the end. I feel like it just went really fast. But yeah, today we have a very interesting, very intriguing for some, very I don't know, interesting in general, but also inviting and maybe mystical for some topic. It's the cosmic mother. I would like you to tell me if you know or you heard about this term, the cosmic mother. Who is she, or is this the first time you heard this? Or you can just move your head, yes, no, or write it down. No, okay. If you can put your camera on, will be great. If not, that's fine. Okay, so the cosmic mother has different names. Oh, okay. Different names. It's basically the sacred feminine energy. It could be called goddess, Mother Earth, Pachamama in Quechua. In Egypt, they call it Isis. Hathor is another name. Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene. Her real name was Marian of Magdala, but at some point it changed to Mary Magdalene. So all these women or characters represent the same. And so when I talk about the divine feminine, that reminds me of something very sacred. Many times is related to religious entities, maybe, or pictures or photos that we see in museums. So I want to start this session honoring the energy of the divine feminine. So not only the characters that we've seen or we learn at school, at countries or museums where we go see it, but the real energy. And by saying the divine energy is something that lives within us. So we're going to start with a little bit of a meditation just to connect with that energy. I'm just going to guide you through something just to visualize, and then we're just going to jump in straight here. Okay? So if you can close your eyes, I'm just going to put some nice little music. I invite you to close your eyes. If you can remove your shoes and place your feet on the ground, would be great. Just to create some extra connection with our Earth, our planet. I know we're not stepping on the grass or on the sand or in the water, but we have learned that doesn't matter. We're just trying to connect with the energy field of Gaia, which is the spirit of the planet Earth. And why do you invite you to think about ancient times? Time where there was no cities, there was no many people around. Maybe people were just gatherers and they were living in communities and walking according to the seasons. They would move if it was too hot or too cold. Back in those days, I'm talking about the beginning of times, humans were really attuned with nature. They considered themselves part of nature. They were one with them. That's why there were cycles, as in seasons, as in the earth, as in us, and especially for women. So now I invite you to place your hands in your lower belly area, where your womb, your powerhouse lives. A place that for years, maybe even generations, has been part of lots of controversy, different ideas, ideologies, some good, some bad. But essentially, it is all part of us. It is all part of who we are, women. So I invite you to imagine that womb. Doesn't matter if you have one or not, if you're old or young. We all have that energetic powerhouse within us. And I want you to imagine that you have some light. Could be little or big, it doesn't really matter. And start breathing and feeling it pulsating. I don't know if you know or you're aware of it, but the womb is our second heart. It actually pulsates, like very similar to our heart center. For many women, it doesn't really feel like it. It feels quite stuck. It feels quite painful. But in reality, our womb should be a place for love, for creativity, for creation of life, and not even only life, but a creation of community, family, businesses. So I want you to imagine that light there, and it just expands through your whole body. That is the divine energy that lives within you and is created right there in your pelvic area. I invite you to start breathing deeply and inhaling and exhaling. One more time, inhaling and exhaling. One more time, deeply and out. Back in the time when the ancient people were connected with nature, women used to have their cycle almost at the same time. And they will gather together in a tent, in a group, in a circle, and they talk about their experiences, their feelings, what it felt to be a woman, to be young, to be old, and the older generation will pass on the wisdom to the younger generation. That was natural for them. It was part of that. Just over the years that it just became this conversation that it was just not natural anymore. Because over the years, human thought that because we now live in cities, in concrete, in big, big spaces, and we sometimes don't even see trees if you live in a city that there's not much nature around you, you start feeling disconnected. When in reality, nature never left. We can still see the sky, we can still hear our hearts, we can still perceive energy. We have a womb, and we spoke the other class about the elements. They are within us: the water, the fire, the earth. All of them are within us. Now you can come back and open your eyes when you're ready. Oh, it's one more person. Okay. All right. So welcome you. I don't know if you knew that our wombs have actually a rhythm. I don't know if that's a concept that you're familiar with. When we go to school, we usually see the picture of, a womb that is like this shape with the ovaries and all that. And it's just static. We see it as if something that it doesn't move. But in reality, something that it moves. It's actually floating in fluid all the time. It's almost like a jellyfish, something like that, very soft. And it moves from here to there. So usually if you feel spasms or you feel pain or it's just really hard to detach, it's because the womb is not relaxed. And we're going to go into that later in this talk. But this is just for you to be aware of something that is not really, we people don't really teach this in school, that the womb is meant to be free. It's not meant to be perfectly symmetrical either. We learn that it's like this shape and it's like exactly, and it needs to be in this specific position, which is not. I mean, if you have ever had like a scan or just had a deep conversation with your doctor, they will explain to you that sometimes they are like this, or like that, and then they have like one over at the front and the other one is at the back. It's never like perfect, which is, it makes total sense. And when I learned this, and the way my facilitator, when I learned about woman health and cycles, she explained, is like, if you think about women are like nature, you have never seen a perfect tree. I mean, for us, they are perfect because they are beautiful. But if you look at them, there's no tree, real tree, that is perfectly symmetrical, or the leaves are the same, or the color is the same. We usually think that when we go to the forest, and it's like the wildest forest, that's even more beautiful because they are not perfect. It's the imperfection that makes them so beautiful. So it's funny that over the centuries and over time, somehow we created this judgment that women and society, we have to be perfect. We have to look a specific way. We have to be symmetrical. This side needs to be like that side. Everyone needs to look the same. Or it just, we can spend hours talking about that, but you get the point. Is that society has made us believe that we all have to fit this pattern and this box, which if we think about nature and animals, none of them are the same as the other. You never see a tree saying to the other tree, "Oh my God, that leaf is so much better than my leaf," or like an animal saying, "Oh my God, my hair is so much better than your hair." I mean, that doesn't really exist. We humans are the only ones that care or think about those things over time. Because if you go back to like simple living, like cultures of people in Africa, people that they're still gatherers and they are connected with nature, concept like beauty, like physical beauty, or concepts like clothing or the way you look or aging or sizing, they don't understand that. For them, it's like completely not important, because for them it's like the unique you are, more attuned and more aligned you are with nature. So that's what I go with. It's interesting when we start looking to ourselves, and if we go back to the very first or second sessions in this workshop about cycle breakers, about awakening, about the body, you realize that it's just all the labels that we carry are the roles that we have. That is what it tells us. Oh, we need to look this way, or we need to be this particular person that everyone accepts, and or to fit in, which in reality is not. We are, when we do that, we actually losing our own true nature and our own essence, which is to be completely unique and different to the rest. I live in New York City, and it's so funny because and this is not to disrespect anyone, this is just my own personal opinion. And as I said, this is something that I usually say at the beginning, but I got carried away. This is my personal opinion, these workshops, my own healing journey, my inner work, the energy practices that I do and I offer. So this is coming from my point of view. If you resonate with it, I welcome you. If there's something that it just feels a bit, I'm not sure, I invite you to let it go. Don't take my point of view like this is the way. I always invite people to listen, get information, maybe read some books, listen to other people, and they make your own judgment, and maybe explore if you are more interested in this topic or the one from last class or the next class. That's the way you can start doing like a self investigation or your own discovery. So going back to what I was saying about New York is that when I moved here, I thought I was going to find all these people with big personalities and different way of, looking specific way and really out there. And there are areas in the city that you see this self-expression, but there also this other part of the city that everyone looks very similar, not in the faces, but just what they wear or how they act. And to me, it was fascinating because the way I saw New York before I lived here, it was this place that it was just this energy of you can be whoever you want. And you have that. But it was just funny to find that duality, And as we have spoken, duality exists, or everything exists because you have this and that. You have the extremes of self-expression, but it's only self-expression because you have the opposite, people that maybe like to wear in black and white, for example. It only the other ones that, they are like so different and exotic because we have the other. Or if you live in a place that everyone wears colorful things and outfits, and really self-expression is like everywhere, and then someone that is dressed in black and very minimal goes there, it's like, oh, it's the opposite, right? It's like, oh my God, because it's the duality of things. I wanted to start talking about Mother Earth, Cosmic Mother, Pachamama. Have you heard about Pachamama before? You can just nod your head or yes or no. So last night I had a sound bath here in New York. So I introduced these topics about Mother Earth or Pachamama. And a lot of people, some people knew about it, some people didn't know, or some people knew in a different name. So Pachamama, is a Quechua word. I was born in Peru, so I'm very familiar with that term, even though I spent many years not even connecting with that energy. But Pachamama means Mother Earth. Pacha in Quechua, it's earth, and mama is mother. So it's Mother Earth, Pachamama. Quechua is the language of the Incas, the ancient people in Peru. It was spoken, and sometimes even now people speak that language in the mountains. I just know a few words, but in Bolivia, northern Peru, the whole mountains in the Andes, that was the language. So there's a lot of words that are in Quechua in Peru. And so Pachamama, it's everything about abundance, about fertile land, about colorful things and outfits. If you ever travel to South America, and this is not even only South America, Native Americans here in the US, Aboriginals in Australia, in Europe, the Druids, that it was the people that are not around anymore in the North, they were all worshiping Mother Earth, Pachamama, the divine feminine, the mother or the goddess. The earth, this planet, it's some people consider that the spirit is called Gaia, is also a feminine energy. And I will explain that. If you remember when we spoke about the elements, earth is considered a feminine energy. And why is that? Because earth, it's something that is fertile, that it produces always, is cyclic like women. We have our times in the months that we want to be like, at home, don't want to go out. We have our cycle. And then there's other times during the months that we want to be out there, we're social, we feel amazing, super creative. If you translate that into earth, it's exactly the same. And why I say that? Because we have seasons. Winter here in the northern hemisphere is getting really cold. All the land is dark. There's no leaves. All the animals are hidden. And so if you're in the southern hemisphere, it's the opposite. Everything is getting, the flowers, and it's summer. Everyone is out and about, animals and insects and everything, because it's a cycle that is coming and going. It's coming and going always, same as us. Another interesting fact is that Earth, Pachamama, the goddess, Gaia, is feminine because it needs the sun. The sun is, just to explain to you a little bit more about Andean cosmovision from Peru, is that the sun is the Inti, that's the Quechua name for the sun. And so that's the masculine energy. We're going to explain about masculine and feminine energies, but just for you to understand what do I mean and how that reflects in us humans. So the earth, it's feminine, and the sun is the masculine energy. And why is that? Because the earth needs the light to be able to produce. It needs the light to be able to grow flowers and have crops and has to have a fertile land and all that. So if there was no light, we cannot have flowers or abundance of fertile. So is this relationship that it creates life. And if that gets translated into humans, the woman, which is the representation of the earth, this is the symbol of the earth. I don't know if you've seen the triangles that represent the 4 elements. So the earth is this symbol with a line, and it's also the same symbol of water. And so if you look at this triangle shape, it looks like a womb, a triangle facing down. So that is the water, and that is the earth with the line here. And then also is like our bodies, because this also looks like, you know, a vulva, the pubis area is also usually drawn as a triangle. And it's also something like the earth, that when you see a seed growing or something is very small, at the beginning, you can't see it. It's hidden, it's inside, it's in the darkness. A seed needs to be in the darkness to be able to flourish and to grow. And that even translates into inner work as a person. You can only grow yourself when you start looking within, looking to your darkness, and then you can see the light, because the duality. The darker is something, the shinier the stars will be the brightest. And so when you achieve, you know, you accept that there's a darkness for you at the beginning, in the seeding area and the cocoon stage, like the earth, like the seeds, then you know that you can work, and then you will see the light. You have a flower or a crop or something will develop. And so on the other side, if you're thinking about the masculine energy, that is the sun, is the light, is expansive, is something that is right there. It cannot be, you cannot hide the sun. It's like bright and on your face. The same is the fire element, which is the opposite. So the water and the earth is like the woman, and the fire and the air is like the masculine, is that way. And if you think about it as well, it's like the sun is always there, is very hot. If you're in a place that is super hot, it's like you cannot hide, you feel it. It's not that you can, you know, it will go away and they will come back. Well, night and day, I know you're thinking, but no, I mean like the sun and its own is like really bright. And with the men, with the fire, it's something that is also external. The genitals is something that you see. They cannot be hidden. So if you think about those two different type of energies, is like the woman energy is like this mysterious cavity or cave that it has been considered a mystery for centuries. And then the guy is completely, the man is always completely the opposite. It's like out there, you see it, right? So that's the duality of the Pachamama and the Inti. If you translate those to other cultures, you have Isis and Horus, or you have Shiva and Shakti in Indian, their ancient names. So you will see always representations of the masculine and the feminine energies. I'm just explaining a little bit about the Peruvian cosmovision, which is Pachamama. Another thing that I wanted to add is that if you think about ancient cultures, and if you go to places where they are really connected to the earth, you will see that everything is very colorful. And sometimes for some people, it's like, oh my God, it's like the rainbows, it's just too much. And so I have something here to show you. So this is a belt, a Peruvian belt, that is called a chumpi. That's a Quechua word. And if you see, it's very colorful. It has yellow and green, red, blue, all these colors. And also, funny fact, if you see the drawing, is like a pattern that is expansive, right? It looks like start here and it just goes and increases in size. So this is a symbol of Mother Earth. Because, and not only this one, but anything and everything that is a pattern that expands and there's no ending, that represents Mother Earth, because Mother Earth is always abundant, always evolving, always increasing in size. There's no ending. It's always like goes to sleep, but then it's up again. Goes to, you know, hides in winter, but then it's up again in the spring and summer. And so the colors are not related at the, oh my God, these people are so happy because they wear so many colors. It's not like that. What it is that they wear the colors because they are representing Mother Earth with their outfits, because they want to see in themselves like the colors of the sky, the flowers, the fruit, and the vegetables, and the animals, the mountains. If you live in places that the mountains are red and orange or black and green, so if you think about all those elements in nature, anywhere, you can be in the city, you will see there's greens and different shades of greens and reds and different shades of reds. So this is what these people do. They just basically wear nature. So it was really funny when I learned that. I was like, oh my God, this makes total sense. I mean, I never thought about that. And I was born in Peru. I just, it's something people think that, oh, because you're from Peru, you're totally connected with all these culture and, knowledge. And it was not like that. Yes, I was aware. I had an idea. I had some concepts, but I was not really educated with the ancient knowledge. We learn history, we learn names and cities and all that, but not the meaning or the symbology behind the triangles, or why the lines expanding, or the colors and all that. So it's really interesting when I talk to people that are not from Peru or from any other, they don't have the knowledge, because it makes sense. They don't think it's a foreign concept. They think, oh yeah, it's like, I understand that, I know it, I just never thought it that way. And it goes to just when you give people information and you give them the chance to learn, it's like they get it. They're like, okay, I see that. So if we go back to before cities, before wars and territories and countries, if we go back to those times where people used to gather in circles, in teepee houses or in domes, or just little tents here and there, and they used to gather the things and move when it was getting too cold, all that time, they used to be very connected with the land and to the divine feminine energy. That's what is called the goddess or Hathor. And it's really interesting because now I'm going to be talking about something that is related to religion in a way, but this is more so to give you an understanding why it's interesting to know the concepts, and then you can go either to do your own research into religion. Doesn't really matter if you are a person that believes in specific gods or not. This is just general knowledge, and I just give it to you, and I have some books that I will show you in a minute if you would like to learn more. So back in the time when these people, there was no cities, energies, the feminine and the masculine, they were quite balanced. There was no too much feminine and too much masculine. And this is something that over the years people think that because you were born a man, you are more masculine, or you have only masculine energy. And if you're a woman, or you were born a woman, you only have feminine. And that is not true. We all carry the masculine and the feminine energies. And they oh, sorry, I'm just watching. Oh yeah, I was checking a message. Everything, not even humans, but everything around us has a masculine and a feminine energy. I started talking about Mother Earth is a masculine energy, and the sun is Mother Earth is a feminine energy, and the sun is a masculine energy. As humans have both energies as well. Before, in the ancient time, when people had the energies balanced, it was all love and all neutral and all in harmony with nature. And why is that? Because women, the feminine energy is linked to community, to mothering, to creativity, to things like nurturing, and all those beautiful, what we consider nowadays beautiful energy of femininity. And then the masculine, can you, yeah, And the masculine energy, when it's in balance, it's very confident, protective, grounded, independent. And so when you think about these two energies in balance, they complement each other in a very nice way. And so if you, as a person, have both of these energies, the masculine and the feminine, aligned, you can feel that, your body, mind, spirit is aligned. When we start having imbalance in the energies, is that when it becomes corrupted and dysfunctional. And so going back to the story of the ancient people, back in the time, the energies were in harmony. And so when, agriculture was discovered, and then people decided that we needed to have a town because, now we have a crop and we have to take care of the land. And then, these animals, yeah, they're really good for my farm area or whatever. So then they decided to stay in one place. The interesting thing that happened was that when they did that, very interesting emotions started to appear, like territory, like, this is my land and that's your land and yours is bigger than mine. Competition appeared. Things like when they were all in communities and moving, it was not a concept of like, this is my land and that's your land. It was no land. It's like, if you have studied the territory in ancient people, they were like, when colonization happened and these different European people arrived, the ancient people were like, oh, well, they're just visiting. But the concept of owning something, it was not something that they understood, because for them, it was just the land. No one owns the land. We are part of it because we are part of nature. And so when these energies started shifting to being, very like protective and dominant, and this is mine and that's yours, that's where the masculine energy started to become quite dysfunctional. Because when the energy of masculine becomes dysfunctional, it becomes aggressive. It's not only protective, but it just becomes obsessive, dominant, insecure. And that's why it's like, I need more because I'm insecure. And all these things that before, that just didn't exist because it was all in harmony. The interesting thing about the masculine energy is that it's very strong when it becomes dysfunctional. And so the feminine energy, it can become when it's imbalanced, because there's too much of the masculine, so the feminine gets reduced. Then it becomes insecure, it becomes passive, submissive, like a victim, disconnected from the body, from the environment. It could be easy manipulated, or you can become a manipulative person. And that's how it reflects the energy when it's not balanced. So if you think about back in the story of the ancient people, that now the energy of the male became like all this aggression and wars started and all these different situations that before they didn't exist. So women, they stayed at home and they were still in the little world of like cyclic and nature and all that. And then when the masculine was returning after battles or whatever was happening, so that energy that was already dysfunctional, when you go back to your home, that energy is not going to back to normal because it's already dysfunctional and imbalanced. So that created what sadly happened to women, that for centuries, women are like, they were submissive, they were, under the husband. They were even treated like a piece of, something that it will go from father to the husband. Many times women didn't even choose their husbands because it was just part of an arrangement. It was swapping for the land or things like that. So if you think about those belief systems that were created back at the beginning of the times, I'm talking about even before religion, even before Jesus was around. So that becomes a belief system. And if we remember some of the classes before, we spoke how a belief system gets created is when a group of people start believing the same thing and they start sharing the same thoughts and emotions and feelings. So when you start creating this vortex of similarities, you create a belief system. And then when a lot of people think the same for a very long period of time, that becomes encoded in your subconscious mind and it becomes who you are. And so over time, that just goes through generation to generation and it just becomes normalized. And so that's how belief system work. And then you fast forward many centuries and then societies in a way because has always been this way. It doesn't mean that it was at the beginning it was different and it changed. So now is that, exists something called the patriarchy, that it's like all these dysfunctional energies when the masculine is the ruler or the one that has the control or the power. And for years, the last few decades, it's been like some sort of the rise of the feminine or that sometimes, this is a longer conversation, but it could be also being the dysfunctional feminine because it's like trying to fight the other part that is also dysfunctional when in reality it's not that. It's just basically both energies. They just need to rebalance themselves. And the only way that you can rebalance energy is just going back to your own nature, not even to nature around us, but just your own nature instead of following patterns or normalizing things. And that's when being a cycle breaker, understanding that you have labels or roles that you don't want to follow anymore, understanding your family history, for example, how was your grandma, your great grandma, and your mother, the stories that they carry. And then that will teach you, if you're curious enough to try to find out information about them, it will teach you, okay, this is what they lived. And then you say to yourself, do I want to be a cycle breaker, or am I already one breaking cycles because I do not believe in the things that they lived, or I do not believe in the patriarchy? And this is not to say that there's something right and wrong. And I'm just wanna just clear the energy now because I feel like it's just getting a bit heavy, and everything that is related to patriarchy and that word just has so much charge that I just want to destroy and create that right, wrong, good and bad, for and poke, or not sure about poverty and beyonds. And what consciousness energy can we be to allow the knowledge to just come through our minds and just pick whatever we want and not feel that it's a rule. Anything and everything that doesn't allow us to just absorb the information, let's just destroy and create that right, wrong, good and bad, for and poke, or not sure about poverty and beyonds. That is just a clear statement from Access Consciousness. I just use it when I feel a word is just full of charge, energetic charge of something. This is not something that I just made up or someone made up before me. This is just because over centuries, some words, they just have a charge that because of society, you say words. And the other, I think it was last class on 2 before we spoke about the word witch, that it has a charge because over years, is linked to all these negative concepts. So that's what I mean by a charge in a word. Or there's some words like, for example, related to women, like our cycle, a period, saying words like vulva, vagina, uterus. And for some people, it's like triggering. It's like, no, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to listen. I don't want to even see it. So, and if you think about it, that is just something in your mind when you were a child or in society that just told you that that was something wrong with that, or that something where it needed to be hush hidden, or it needed to be non-spoken. And it's really funny because if you think about all that charge in those words related to women, is going back to the seed that is in the darkness, is in the cave. And if you have ever seen a cervix or a photo of that, when a doctor needs to see that, they have massive lights, because if there was no light, it literally looks like it's like a cave, super dark. And so it's a mystery. And for so long, women were a mystery because this blood is sacred. Is no cut, so nothing wrong with us. This is just something that nature naturally happens. And so it was always a mystery. And as we spoke before, when something is not understood, three things happen. One is hidden, two is destroyed, or in the case of women, is shame. So we learned that it was shameful and it was embarrassed and it was dirty and it was all these concepts that are linked to not wanting to share that. And when in reality, this is the divine sacred element. If you are familiar with religious concept like the chalice or the Saint Grail, that is basically like a cup, a golden cup that we see in church. That's actually a pagan symbol that religion, the church took, but it's basically the representation of the womb, like this. It's a triangle. And it's funny because when the priest, they use red wine in representation of the blood of Christ. It's funny because that's actually representing the creation of the blood of the woman. That was the pagan description. And then the church took that and sort of like changed it. And anyway, that's a different story. It's like a rabbit hole down there. Anyway, and now just to go a little bit into religion, I know that also is another world. And again, I don't want you to say that this is, I'm not religion or I am religion. I just talk from my own experience, and this is just knowledge that I have learned over the years. This is not something that I was born knowing or I didn't know like 10 years ago. This is something that I have been discovering, and I just feel that it's time for women to know or just have the information. So if you hear about it, you at least have a bit of knowledge about it. And is that there's a symbol that is related to the woman and to these mysteries and hidden secrets and the cave and the darkness. And it's the beautiful animal on the archetype of the snake. And so over the years, the snake has been, if you go back to the books in the Bible, it's like this animal that ruined everything because it gave Eve the apple, and then, and then she got into trouble, and then, oh no, God took them out of the sacred garden and all that story. So then this snake became the symbol of something horrible that happened to humanity. It was the sin, right? And the snake passed on the sin to Eve, which passed on to Adam, and then the story. So then when we kids are born, we carry this sin that you're meant to have because of that story. However, I just want you to be open-minded and just hear the story that comes from ancient mythologies, ancient stories, and is that the snake represent the wisdom, the divine feminine wisdom. Why? Because a snake is an animal that's also cyclic. It sheds its skins, it transforms, and it changes. And so if you think about it, in nature is like us. When we are changing and transforming, we are shedding our skin, right? We are becoming a new being. We go into a cocoon, and then we are reborn again. And so the cosmic mother symbol, if you Google it, you will see that it's a lady with it's a snake face, or it's a snake with an outfit, or an Egyptian. If you remember Egyptian cultures, they used to have these tiaras with a snake here, or a cobra, not even a snake, it was a cobra. And so that is actually the representation of the Kundalini energy rising, which is when you connect to the energy field of the earth, to Gaia, and go through your body from your feet to the top of your head, you have enlightenment, which was represented by the snake, the cobra. That's why it was coming from the third eye, which is the eye that sees everything. You don't even need to have eyes if your third eye is open, because you can perceive everything. Like when we spoke about the energy, when we are attuned with our bodies, and we know that we can perceive, and we are attuned with our senses. Mindfulness is really good for that, for example. And then for a lot of people, they perceive that their forehead start to hurt. That is like this sensation that I have in my forehead. Or when they meditate, people, when they start meditating over time, they realize that their forehead start hurting. And that's just energetically the third eye is being open. And so that only means that you're just more connected. And so your intuition increases, your connection with nature increases, you start perceiving subtle energies. So all those energies, everything that is, all the unseen, all that is related to intuition, to your own knowing, to your gut feeling, you know, when you feel like, I shouldn't go that way, and then something happens, something like that. So that's the wisdom of the snake. So if you go back to that story, so the snake is the representation of the wisdom of the women. And so what she did was, if she told the stories about energy, about intuition, about the Kundalini energy that rises from your spine to your head, to the men. And so imagine if we live in a world that everyone knew how to play with energy. Imagine a world where everyone knew how to be a conscious person, eat consciously, be considered, have a balance, feminine and masculine. So the patriarchy wouldn't exist. There was not exist, not even worse. I mean, I'm pushing it, but I'm a dreamer. So I dream on those situations that maybe that was not even going to be a reality, because the wisdom that got labeled as a mystery, as darkness, as scary, as we don't know why this person bleeds once a month, but it's weird, a witch and all that. Imagine if there was none of those labels, but then they would have embraced the wisdom and the energy of transformation, be cyclical like the nature. Sadly, history, as we all know, took a different turn, and we women got labeled by, you have to hide, you cannot tell that you have a period. If you think about it, even when you go to work and you feel, or even if you feel, you have your cycle and you don't feel the best, but then you have to go to work. And you cannot tell anyone that is because of your cycle that you don't feel good. You just have to suck it up, act like nothing is wrong, you're perfectly fine, and just go. When in reality, your body is telling you, I need to go back to my cocoon. I need to rest for a few hours or for a day. And so we women, sadly, we became so disconnected with our true nature, with our womb, our powerhouse, that we needed to have this masculine energy very prominent, because we have learned that we need to always be doing things. We always need to be working. We always need to be producing. And that is in a balanced and nice way. That's good to have that masculine. I mean, we have to have it, otherwise we wouldn't even get up in the morning. That's the masculine energy, the fire that makes you stand up and do things. But then if it's too much, then it becomes, we spoke about that the other day, that is just about always doing, workaholic, just never going to rest, or never finding time for yourself, or to nourish your body, or just listen to what's going on in this amazing being, so that's what I mean with the wisdom of the divine feminine, that when you start connecting with your true nature. Oh, wait, sorry, someone. Okay, I was admitting someone. It's back. Anyway, so that is what I mean with the wisdom of the divine feminine represented by the snake. And I invite you after this call to go and Google the snake, cosmic mother, or snake, or cobra, divine feminine, and you will see there's tons of information about it. There's tons of books about it. They are fascinating, especially in the Egyptian culture. something that is called the initiates. I don't know if you heard about this. Just you can move your head if you have heard about the initiates. No? Okay. This is fascinating. So this is another rabbit hole, but I'm going to touch on that a little bit. So the initiates were these women that they carried the wisdom, the actual symbol, it was the cobra. And if you've seen, I'm not wearing my ring, but I wear a ring that is a cobra in my finger. You can see women in ancient time that they had a cobra here in the arm. It looked like just a wire that goes around here or in the fingers. So that is a symbol of it initiates, or the symbol of the wisdom of the snake, the divine feminine, which is a cobra that is spiral, it's like a spiral because it's going up, like the Kundalini energy. I invite you also to look for Kundalini energy, it's with a K, and also it looks like a spiral, it goes like that. And if you think about the symbol of doctors and medical symbol, it's actually two snakes that they cross like this. That's actually the symbol of the Kundalini rising energy, which is funny because that's a pagan symbol as well. It's ancient, but at some point in time, doctors pick that up and they use it. But not many people know that it's actually the wisdom, the cobra, the symbol of the energy to consciousness that goes through the forehead. So going back to the initiate, it was these women, ancient times, and they were, the story says that they were connected to Mother Nature. They used to worship the divine feminine. They knew how to manipulate energy. They were, their intuition was incredible. And they were just working for the light. They used to do women's circles and dance and be free and all that back in the, before, about Jesus' time, when history sort of started, they were considered dirty. That was a time in history that the Constantine, well, that was 400 years later, but that was the time where the Christianity was sort of starting, that it was when Jesus was around and he was doing all these things and he was that rebel. I mean, it's funny because, you think about Jesus, if you you have learned religion, it's like this saint and this person that was enlightened and did all these miracles. But if you think about it, in real terms, he was a rebel, because at that time, you could not go and be with the sick people. You could not be around women. You could not be around the poor. That was considered dirty. That was considered not holy. And he was doing all those things. So it's funny that he was he's now is this character that is all about sacred and divine. But if you really think about the history and the character of Jeshua, which that was his real name, Jeshua being Joseph, he was just a rebel at his time because he was hanging out with women. And that in that time, it was when women were considered not holy. There's some books, and I will tell you which books. There's 3 amazing books that I will share, that even when the women, they used to walk around covered, and that's why Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene and all the women, they are covered, because they were not holy, because they were not considered equal as men. And so they needed to hide. And they were like always walking this way. And if anyone knew that they were in their cycle, oh my God, that was even worse. They were not even allowed to go to the temples. They had to be outside the temples. They could not go inside. And there's something really interesting that when Joshua was, carrying the cross and all this happened, and he was, being blamed for deciding if he was going to be crucified or not. And so women, they could not go and see him. They were actually outside the temple. And if you've seen movies, it's all about the men. The people in front of him is all men, and women were outside because they were dirty and they couldn't go to the temples. So during this time, the initiates existed. And this is a lineage that is still exists now. So you can Google that too. And they came from Egypt, and they were educated women and married women women that they had the knowledge, they worshiped the snake, the cosmic mother. And they wear the snake here on the arm or here, I can't remember. And so that's the way they used to recognize each other. And so this is controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway. Mother Mary, the story tells that Mother Mary was an initiate, and the Mary Magdalene was as well. And they knew each other before Mary Magdalene got introduced to Yeshua, so Jesus. And so the story in the Bible tells that Mary Magdalene was dirty and she was a prostitute, and then Jesus sort of saved her and then took her over, and then she became one of the apostles, right? So on the other side of the story, and this is again, you can do your own research. I'm just telling you according to the knowledge that I know. And also because I go really deep in my rabbit holes researching things when I'm really into things. And so when they met, Mary Magdalene and Jesus, she was not a prostitute. She was just an very beautiful, very wise woman. And just by those three characteristics, she was considered unworthy and a prostitute. Because back in that time, men were the educated, men were the one that could go anywhere and do whatever they wanted, and women were not meant to do anything. They were meant to just stay at home with the children and nothing else. And so when you get these exotic women that they are beautiful and don't have husband and they have the wisdom and they know how to work with energy and all that stuff, that becomes extremely scary. And so all these women, they got labeled as prostitutes because they were only living with women and worshiping the goddess and worshiping nature, and they were not afraid or scared about sharing their knowledge. And so this is something that sadly it was recorded in the Bible, and the Bible was rewritten 400 years later than the very first books were written. If you do your research, you will see that not only the books that exist right now, like John and Joseph and John and Paul and all of them, but there's like the Mary Magdalene book, there's the Thomas book, there's the Enoch book. They are all online for you to go and go crazy and read, because it's fascinating to see the different points that they narrate the same stories, but with a different eye. And so when the patriarchy started, which is when Constantine said, we need to worship only one God. And Christianity was in the rising, right? Jesus just died and he was an amazing being and all that. So they took that, and Constantine said, let's just make it official. And this is the religion for everyone. And so everyone that didn't follow that basically got, disappear. You need to go away. You either change or not. And so all these people that didn't believe in one religion or in one God, and a God that it was fearful, that it was not harmonious with nature and give you everything abundant, so then it was created this God that it was like, you need to be good, otherwise you go to hell, or you have to be this way, otherwise you are not entering the heaven. So, it is based in fear. And if you think about it, like, and this is just my own point of view, if you think about a God that will never make you feel scared, it's quite the opposite. It will make you empowered and think that you have your own power and you are able to do as you wish, because we live in a world that is like free will, carpe diem. You can do whatever you want as long as you follow the nature rules. And then anyway, everything become really dysfunctional. All the people that worship other gods go live in the countryside or in the forest or in the mountains, and they became the witches or the wizards, and they became the shamans, and they prosecuted. And then the rest is like, history. We've seen it in movies everywhere, that's how sort of became known as all these names that are related to mysticism and wrongness and darkness. Because if you go to the forest, the forest is dark. during the day, if it's sunny, it's beautiful, but as soon as the sun is out, it becomes this very dark place, and maybe it's scary because you don't know what's going on. So then if you think about, all these people that went and live there because they were not scared because it's nature. And then there was another group of people, they were like, no, they are all crazy, and labeling them. So that's when the patriarchy started creating, because it became this huge belief system that this is the way the world needs to be run, or this is the way women needs to be. This is there's nothing about this divine feminine, or what is that, and the snake, no, that's ugly, and let's just get rid of that. It just became really what's the word, distorted. I think that's the word, distorted. And so now is the year 2023, and it's something really fascinating happening, that is like the divine feminine is rising. And you can also Google that or go on social media. And so it's something really interesting that is happening since the great pause that happened in 2020, but maybe last year and this year is really, really present, and is this divine feminine that is just increasing worldwide. And I see it in friends and people that I know, and some clients that I see, and they are looking for community, and they're looking for people that think the same way that they think, and they just looking for just what else is out there. And they just, society also, like women, we've been trying to be equal for years. And again, that's a different conversation, but sometimes when you fight too much, then you become dysfunctional. The energy just doesn't flow, it just becomes blocked. But what I mean is that the divine feminine is rising, and there's one of the books that it talks about, I don't know if you're into astrology, but this is the era of Aquarius, just started at the beginning of this year. This is cycles in the world, actually in the universe. And so there's I don't know how long it lasts, a cycle. If you know, please let me know in the chat. But there's like years of that lasts an era, and then something finishes, and then something starts again. So the Pisces era finished, and it just started the Aquarius. And in one of the books that is a channel book from Mary Magdalene, that she says the cosmic mother will start rising when the Aquarius era starts. And I remember when I read that, I was like fascinated, because it's like, oh my God, this is the year 2023. We actually live in history as we speak. And then over the years, now is the year is almost finished, and I've been seeing all this. My awareness is like, oh my God, this is true. It's like, because I perceive the women energy, or this divine energy, trying to rise and trying to find community, and trying to find people that just think the same way. And now we live also, oh, sorry, I'm just reading someone comment, in numerology, there is something to do with the numbers coming out of masculine energy into feminine energy. Oh, that's fascinating. Thank you for that. And also next year is the year 8, which is 2 + 2 + 4. And so that's also another, another world to explore. But my point is that the divine feminine is rising, and with that, archetypes rise as well. We spoke about archetypes at the very beginning of this workshop series, but they were more like the victim and the people pleaser, or those archetypes. If you think about it, now that I'm talking about feminine energy, that is dysfunctional feminine energy, because you feel disempowered, you feel like a victim, submissive. I don't have, oh my God, poor me, everything happens to me. So that is the dysfunctional feminine. If you think about the heal or empower feminine, that is empowerment, that is confidence, that is creativity. That's just that willingness to do things. Oh, my water is finished. Nurturing, all that energy that it's just a representation of Mother Earth, which is always giving, Again, If you go to this balance energy, imbalance is the too much giving. And then again, it becomes dysfunctional, because where are your boundaries? You know, another thing that happened to us women is that we are programmed to always give and to serve others, to serve family, friends, father, husband, partners, everyone. So that is a dysfunctional energy. So when you start creating boundaries for yourself, I'm not saying that you're just going to be isolated in an island and just say no to everything, but just listen to your body. And we spoke about that the previous classes. When you start going from mind to body and to your spirit, so then you start becoming more attuned with energies. You start becoming more intuitive, and you start awakening your consciousness of being aware of what's happening. That is not something that you either have or not. This is just something that you just practice. It's like a muscle. The more you practice, and the more you start like a little meditation practice or a little mindfulness practice, then it becomes easier. It comes to you easier. And so about the archetype, there's a very interesting archetype that I wanted to talk about, and it's the wild woman archetype. I'm just going to grab my bottle of water. Oh. Just if you know, if you were wondering why my bottle, they are made of glass and they are blue, and it's because I charged them in my windowsill. They were just here in the window because the sunlight is healing. And so the blue glass reacts with the light and it charges your water with energy. And so I fill them up and I put them in the window and then I drink them. So if you ever find a blue glass bottle, you can keep it and you can start doing that. You can do the same during the full moon, and you can have moon water, and you do the same and you put it out there with no lid, and you charge the water and you create moon water. And it's also very healing. Some people even put little crystals inside and you infuse the water. This is just a ritual about how to nourish your body, how to nourish your soul. This is a tradition that is also linked to ancient women. And I'm going to go into that. Just want to start with the wild woman archetype. And why is this important? So the wild word has been also labeled as like savage and crazy, and your hair is like this, and all this, someone that you cannot be quiet. But this is interesting because it's not that way. When you think about the word wild, it just means that you are connected with your true nature, with Mother Earth, essentially. So when you are connected with your true nature, you're not playing by the roles or the labels or the ways that people told you you needed to be. There's a really beautiful question that I have. Sometimes I ask to people, I just say, think about who you were or who could you be if you didn't live life according to the expectations of others, according to what they told you you needed to be. Who were you before the world, your culture, your society told you who you needed to be to live in this world? So if you start removing all these layers, then you go back to your true nature, which is the wild woman archetype. And there's some ways of connected with this archetype. And to connect with nature is basically connect with your body. Because as we know, the body, we spoke about that last class, I think, the previous, in the body class. The body is the representation of the earth element. Because, you can touch, it's like the container is the one that changes and is cyclical, like the earth. We have seasons, right? We also shed skin like a snake, like the earth. We change the hair as well. If you're like me, I have hair, my hair is everywhere. So again, like nature, so always changing. So when you go back to your wild feminine nature, is go back to your body. And I wanted to share some practices to connect with your body and start, if you want, activating this wild feminine archetype. This doesn't mean that you're going to start going wild, like your hair is going to be crazy and you're going to start wearing whatever. That has nothing to do with that. This is just to be attuned with your true nature and worshiping who you are as a person, and also as worshiping your story. So not only the good things that happen to you, only the beautiful things that happen to you right now, but your whole being since the moment that you were born and everything that happened to you for you to be who you are right now. There was a time that I used to want to forget things that happened to me, that they were not so nice. And then I learned that that was not the way. The way is integrating that with who you are. It's almost like you get, intertwining with who you are. And so it becomes a whole. And then when it becomes a whole, you say, okay, this is my true nature. I'm not hiding anymore. I'm not avoiding this part of me anymore. One of the beautiful, beautiful rituals, I would say, to connect with your body is the movement. And some here we practice that, and it's beautiful practice. You can do it on your own. You don't have to do it with people. A lot of people have this label or this belief system that you're not a good dancer, and that's why you don't dance, or you don't know how to move your body, or you don't have a good rhythm, or your ear with music is just completely off, so you just like gave up dancing years ago. But that's not the movement that I'm talking about. I'm talking about just connecting with your body as in perceiving who you are. I'm not also talking about choreographies or, because if you think about a choreography, it's like someone one day decided that this is the way you have to dance. This step is that way and that step is that way. Even if it's beautiful, I'm not saying that it's not. I'm going back to the wild feminine, the wild woman archetype. If you think about nature, if you think about the wind, this dance that trees, you see in nature, it's completely random. It's completely organic. It flows. It's not worrying about like, oh my God, that tree is like, it's flowing much better than me. Or that tree is like, the leaves are like moving so nicely and my leaves are dark and dry. I don't know. It just completely doesn't make any sense. It's actually sounds really funny. So when you connect with this energy of the wild woman, I would just recommend you to just choose any song that you like. You can choose medicine music, you can choose instrumental music, or any song that you like, and just move your body. Just let your true nature to come alive. Maybe at first you feel a bit awkward, even if you're alone, because some people, I talk to people that even alone, they feel awkward and they just don't know how to move their body. And so, but that again is like the memory of your muscle memory will start working and you start feeling the music and we just start moving. So that's a really good exercise to connect with that energy. Another thing that I wanted to talk is that we will explore that next session, that is the final one, that is about ancestors. But when you dance and you connect with your body and with your essence, you actually worshiping your own body. You are saying that I am worthy of giving me this time. I'm worthy of dancing and moving like a wild woman without thinking that it looks good or it doesn't look good and I should be doing this way and my body's funny and I'm moving in a strange way. Again, if you go back to the elements, you will notice that those judgments are only part of humanity. That doesn't exist in nature. Someone in the history of time decided that the move needs to be this way and not that way. If you think about it and you do your research about ancient practices, about the initiates and all those ancient people that I mentioned before, they go wild. They dances. They are exotic to many because they have no structure. They just free like nature. So if you go back in time when women used to gather before towns existed, before cities, and women used to be together in domes or tipi houses or circles, they would dance under the stars around the fire element, looking at the moon with the animals. And that's because they were part of nature. They were dancing with the earth, and they were celebrating being alive and being a woman and being wisdom and carrying this creative powerhouse within us. On all the century that has passed, and now a lot of people are completely disconnected from their bodies, me included. Only a few years ago, I was like completely disconnected. I was under stress. I thought I was spiritual, but I was not really, because it was all concepts, but it was not practice. You can read and learn as much as you can, but if you don't grab those theories and those books and you start practicing and start just applying that in your own life, so it's almost like, it's like you're not really doing it. It's like when people start learning about awakening process or the shadow work, or they think that they, by journaling every day or by doing beautiful meditations and going walk in beautiful parks, that's already going to do the healing for them. And maybe it will, but if you really want to deep dive within your soul and understand who you are, you have to be like Indiana Jones. I mean, you have to be ready to go and explore who you are and explore the shadow side and the light side. And why do I feel this way? And why I get triggered by these topics? And why my mom is this way? And why my dad was that way? What is this story behind? How we spoke about before is like, you only understand the person today when you see their story, their journey, what have they lived and experienced. And so we will talk about that in the next one, but that is completely linked to your ancestors. And women, as we spoke, we have a womb. Inside the womb is like nothing, right? It's like an area that is empty. The interesting thing, though, is that women, we carry energy within that womb. And I feel like I have said this at some of the class, I can't remember which one. I mentioned that cellular memory for our grandma is being carried to our mothers, and then from our mom to us. And then we ever have a daughter, and our ancestry had some issues that they didn't have the tools, I couldn't do it or didn't want to. Usually that cellular memory pass on to the next generation until someone decides to break the cycle and say, okay, what was grandma about? What was my great grandma about? What did they live that it needs to be reclaimed? What am I able to do in this life that is going to worship them, that is going to tell them, you could not do it, but I am doing it for you. And so when you're dancing, for example, that's why it's such a powerful activity to do, even for yourself alone, because when you reclaim the wild woman archetype, it's like saying to all these women that came before you that you are dancing for them. Because sadly, older generations, they were told how to behave, how to do things. They were told that they needed to act in this way to fit in society, to find a husband, to find a partner. If they were not doing the right thing, so they were going to be cast away or being the weirdo or whatever label it was, existed back in the time. So a lot of these people, these women, they couldn't dance, put Spotify like we do and just dance, right? Move. And they couldn't do that. And if they were doing it, they were going to be considered like these strange women, and the whole neighborhood was going to be talking about them straight away. And so when you start reclaiming and worshiping your own body, and if you have an altar and you have your crystals, you can start, reclaiming and talking to your ancestors. We're going to dive really deep, not really deep, but what we can do in next class about that. But just for you to understand why it's so important to connect with our womb energy and our bodies, because that is essentially the memory of mom, sisters, grandma, great grandma. We actually carry up to 7 generations before us. And if you are ever interested in exploring that part of ancestry, if you don't know the story of your grandma, you never knew, but you know that there was something painful there that you don't know what happened, and you want to help, you can do it. Even if they are gone from this life, you can do something that is called a family constellation. It's a therapy that you do. You can do one-on-one, or you can do in groups. And it's very powerful. I've done it quite a few times, like 4 times over the years. And it can be so transformative because you actually touch into those stories, because sometimes that cellular memory passes on from generation to generation. And sometimes you have fears, or you have I don't know, just thoughts or limiting belief system, or even sometimes pains in your body that you don't know where are they coming from, or panic to, let's say, water or birds or things that are just, you cannot understand why. And sometimes it cannot even be yours, could be from a family member. Not what I mean by family member is like mom or grandma or great grandma. And so that's why I find fascinating when you connect with your ancestors. And just think that even if your parents are still alive, they are already your ancestors. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be like 10 generations back to call like that word that it sounds like, oh, so ancient, as it's just like the past. It's not. If you have your parents or your granddad, your grandma right now alive, they are already your ancestry. And we are not, one day when they are not around anymore, you can still connect with that energy, because in the energetic body, we carry our parents, their parents, and so on and so on, because thanks to them, we are here. So in family constellations, where you do the work, you always are smaller than the previous generation, because you are like the last one of the ladder, and if someone came after you, it will be smaller and smaller. This doesn't mean that it's less important and more important. This is just because this is the cycle of life, and they are, you know, just generations before. And then so that's why when you do work with your ancestors, you honor them. It's very like with a lot of respect, and you reclaim, for example, doing dances or reclaiming your own body and the wild feminine energy. For example, you decide to do inner work or explore more of within yourself. When you do that, you're not only healing yourself. You maybe have read that in social media. A lot of people talk about that. When you do healing in yourself, it's not only you that you're healing everyone around you. Because when you do healing, you change your energy field. And we spoke about energy, that is the ether element, the etheric body that is like a sphere around us. So when you do healing, that energy field changes, start shifting. And so that it will change other people's energy field, because as we learn, they're always changing and touching. So if you touch, your energy have changed, and you feel better with yourself. You are connected to your body and to your true nature. Imagine the change and the shift that you can do to everyone around you. It's super interesting. I just realized it's 7:30 already. Oh my God, that went so fast. I will stop talking now. And do you have any questions or comments or anything that you are curious to know? I will show you the books now, but I will share photos in the chat. And if you have any question, you're also welcome to message me direct and just ask me. I will tell you if I can help, or I know someone that does things. I will pass on the details. Just if you are thinking, I'll show you the books. So this is one. It's called The Power of the Magdalene. I will share photos in the group. It's really beautiful. And it mentioned Jesus and different parts of history. It's really beautiful. And then this one is also really cool. It's called the Magdalene Manuscript. And it talks about Egyptian, the initiates, and things like that. Just see if you resonate with that. Some of them are a bit advanced in like energy and, you know, just some of the concept. Oh, cool. I like how we are into info from Jesus down the patriarchy. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's just so much information. I mean, we live in a time where, to me, ignorance is a choice because it's all outside. You can just grab your phone, Google, or look, buy a book. There's so much free information as well in social media. So, as I said before, I would just invite you to take whatever resonated with you and just go find your own information. Um, yeah, it's just, you know, it's just so much this time, thanks to technology, we can have a circle around across the globe. We can find information from different countries and learn about Pachamama, about the energy, about the initiate. So that's super cool. I really find it fascinating. And there's always a reason why we are alive at this time. That's another food for thought as well. All right. So thank you so much for today. I hope it was not an overload of information. I feel like I just started talking this way and I just went, whoa. Okay. If you have extra questions or anything, just send me a direct message or in the chat, and I will take photos of these two books. There's another book that is amazing as well, but it's not printed anymore. It's an old book. I found it on as a PDF online, but I will share the cover if you want to find it. It's fascinating. Okay. Have a good day or evening. Until next time, we're talking about our ancestors, and just, yeah, that would be really interesting, a way to finish the workshop series. Okay. Bye-bye, everyone. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa.